We are busy to what they call easy things. If you look at it, the 90% of dried rice find their way into Nigeria. So there's need for us to look beyond the immediate. Okay. We are in a serious situation.
When you closed one, I'm still saying, let me take you on what you said. You said it's not like everything was shut down.
Because I operate in the industry.
Okay, so now that you've shut down the road borders, yes, not all of them, just a partial closure, right? There are reports, concrete reports, that these smugglers are devising other means to smuggle in these goods that they want to bring into the country. And one of those is the waterways, because they say that the Navy, who is their major issue that they have to deal with, are more focused on people trying to import or export petroleum products. So would you say that, I mean, you're just creating...
No, you're not creating.
You're creating more
because
problems.
If you know, I don't know if you have ever been to around Songo or the mile 2 as is towards Seme. You see a lorry load. You see the heaps. At times they will get to a bridge. They will not be able to pass under the bridge because of the height of the load they are bringing in. But if you are using these small boats, how many can you bring in? Those guys that have said, some people said, oh, they have now faced the water, using water. All those small boats, how many can they bring? You see, what the government realizes the fact. I'm very happy the question you asked, that all happens to the officials that are supposed to be doing this job. And that's why I gave you the example of America. That even with the level of administration of America in terms of technology, they could not manage, they couldn't control their entry points. That's why they are now trying to big war. The size of Nigeria, what will be the money you are going to spend to bring a wall, to build a wall? Like my friend Noale always says, that if you say all the immigration officers, all the customs men, all the people at the operation at the borders, that if they line like this and then they stretch their arms, would they be able to cover the whole of Nigeria? It's just a joke that we crack in our time. So we appreciate the fact that there will be some hiccups, there will be some pains. He cited the example of China. That of China was even total. But this one is not total. Whatever business you want to do, come and do it in the open.
It seems to be, let me come to you, it seems to be a temporary measure. What should be the long-term plan to ensure that the government actually checks illegal importation of these, products that we can produce here in the country?
Well, I don't know why you think it's a temporary plan.
That's the comment from the Senate, and then you also have the president saying that yes.
It's a temporary. Well, if that's a temporary, maybe they are trying to have understanding of the impact, the positive or the negative impact is going to have in the economy for them to have a better plan about it. Because if you look at the border of Nigeria, I was reading somewhere today that we have 87 official borders, whereas we have over 1,900 unofficial borders.
We're celebrating our 59th year of independence. We're almost 60, and we're still planning on how to protect our borders.
It's just unfortunate that that's where we have found ourselves today, and we just have to move on from where we are so that we can get better. Like he said, there is no country that has it all when it comes to, but I do watch this border security on one of the TV stations, international TV station, and I see a lot of things happening there. Even some the immigration officer would go as far as going to the hill, going to the forest, and they would see some old already tunnel already dug from one country to another. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's something that, but what matters most is that it's to reduce, to minimize. There is no way you can eradicate.
So what should be the plans we're looking at?
So the plan now is that now that the federal government is considering a temporary one, they should first of all look at what we have been able to save, the impact it has in the economy, and let them have a plan on whether to either to increase the immigration of the officers at borders, or to equip them more, or to increase the tariffs on the land, or put all the other things that they need, they know that is necessary for them. Let them go out, let them learn from other countries, let them bring it back home and use it for the betterment of this country.
What about Nigerians, the ordinary Nigerian who is bearing the brunt of the price hike in products? I watched a market survey the other day. Things that were sold for like 10,000, there is a 5,000 naira charge on top of it. That last 2 months you bought it for 15,000, now it's 20,000. Something you bought for 8,000. Let me see what other amounts I have here. Something that was sold for 15,000. I'm even talking about 8,000. There's been a 40% hike in the price. What happens to the ordinary Nigerian?
Yes, we are.
Cannot afford
That's why we are
these things?
Nigerians. That's why we are Nigerians.
No, but that's not. That is,
A columnist, I think it was on Monday, said he did something like this market survey, and they got a woman selling gari, and the price has gone up. They said, "Madam, what happened?" Only I am a quantity border. That means you know they have shot the border. The gari seller telling us that. Immediately, this government came in, and then there was this. The issue of what do you call it, dollar,
floating exchange,
and against the Nigerian rate. And then, even if you wanted to buy carrot, the mother will tell you, say dollar don't go up. That is why we are Nigerians. At times, patriotism comes into this thing, because when you're talking of advanced countries, some of the things we do here, an American will not want to do it against his country. It is just inbuilt. Some of the things we do against our country. An American will not bring in 100 containers and go to customs officer and say, let me give you, pay for 2, you take the money for 2, then my 200 are released.
So we have bigger issues to deal with.
An American
basically
will not do that. So patriotism will come in. Then I think what the government needs to do, it's even good that our neighbors are shouting now. The government should have talk sense into them. Help us to check smuggling. Then we open our borders.
Your final thoughts?
Well, what I would just say is for people to continue to bear in respect of these.
Why must Nigerians continue to bear? I'm tired of hearing this thing all the time. Nigerians, we are like long-suffering people. Why?
Well, just like he said, we are Nigerians. We are Nigerians, and if you find out, we are the cause of our problems.
Simple.
We are the cause of our problems. So, if we fail to do it right, then we must be ready for the consequence that comes with it.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. That's a wrap on this segment. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, we'll be speaking on Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and the corruption allegation against him. Just stay with us.
Seek their dream. Throb with desire. Joy welled up in their hearts. A brand new life adventure is about to begin. Create a life for someone new. Nigerians in China. On StarTimes, Da Donkoa.
Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
Really disastrous for a president
to even say
be unaware of the chief justice.
It's a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was very
terrible
strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun,
whatever I've done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
In an effort to prove his innocence in the 90 billion naira corruption allegations leveled against him by the former Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressive Congress APC, Timmy Frank, has offered to waive his immunity. Frank stated that the money was to fund the last general election. However, a Lagos-based lawyer, Ini Dehe Efyong, has responded. He says the Vice President lacks the constitutional power to waive his immunity. My question is, didn't the Vice President, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, know this? Is he just playing games? Joining me to help make sense of this are my guests from the last segment. We have Babashola Adegbuyi, he's a political analyst. And of course, we have Dikpo Olayokun, a journalist. Thank you very much for staying with us. But before I ask you questions, I want us to just get the perspective of a lawyer whom we spoke with earlier, Barrister Liborius. He shares his thoughts, and then when we come back, we'll speak with our guests. Just stay with us.
So for looking at civil immunity, then you can say he can waive, it doesn't even need to waive civil immunity, because by the Supreme Court authority of Global Excellence and Donald Duke, it's a 2007 case, he can sue by virtue of Section 308. That does not, Section 308 does not restrain him from, bringing an action to maintain his reputation. But by the same Supreme Court authority in IMB Securities and Tinubu, that one is 2001 authority, an action cannot be maintained against him. It's a civil action. Even if the action was, brought before he became, he assumed that position, that action will be held in abeyance until he leaves office. But for criminal immunity, he can be investigated. There is no immunity to investigation, and so he can be investigated but cannot be prosecuted. The essence of investigation, like we've seen EFCC, have done with former governors, and even Fayoshe's case really comes to mind. And so you can investigate a sitting governor, deputy governor, president, or vice president who enjoys immunity, but that's, immunity, that investigation stops there. He cannot be prosecuted. So I really don't see the area that the vice president is waiving immunity for, because he doesn't have the power to waive. If in a situation where you sue him, the Supreme Court had said he cannot even waive that immunity to defend that action. But the same Supreme Court had said he can sue to maintain his reputation and credibility.
Yes. So all right, you've heard Liborius, and our guests are here. He's explained that he can be investigated even though he cannot be prosecuted. For a senior advocate of Nigeria, shouldn't he have known this before saying he was going to waive his immunity? Let me come to you first.
Well, we need to understand that lawyers to go to court to get clarification on the Constitution. And that's where we have judges who will sit down and say, okay, let's look at it. Let's compare this and this, and let's look at it and give the interpretation to whatever that is brought to them in the court of law. But looking at the Constitution, the Section 308, one thing I'm so sure of is that that immunity is tied to the position of the Vice President and not to Yemi Osinbajo. You get my point. The allegation is against Yemi Osinbajo, but being in that position, it, as a person, cannot waive the immunity, just like Libros explained. And if you look at some cases, I think Bola Tinubu had some issues in the past whereby the court stated that...
And I think that's where they're basing this argument.
Yes, that it cannot for any reason waive that. For him to say, okay, I want you to investigate me, I'm ready for whatever you guys want to do. If you want to waive divinity, the only thing you can do as a person is to either temporarily leave that office or resign for you to be investigated. You can for you to be prosecuted, not investigated.
Do you see the vice president actually relinquishing his position, however temporary that is?
No, I don't think the issue of relinquishing his position came into anything around this issue we are discussing. You see, I think some of the problems we have in this country is that some of us usually fly with the headlines. We don't even go into the integrity of the story. What really happened? Somebody maligned the integrity of the vice president. And the man wrote a letter.
Before we get to that, the question
I mean,
is, he is saying he wants to waive his immunity. The constitutionality is what we're trying to establish.
You need to understand what is at play.
We will get to that,
yes.
but we want to start off with the basis.
Do you know the immunity the man is talking about? That's why I'm going to anchor my argument on what Libros said.
Okay.
He can sue.
Yes,
because the question some people have is that, what I can see, that means he has to step down as vice president before he can sue. But that's why Libros gave us a ruling of Supreme Court that he can sue.
Yeah.
Now, but he cannot be sued. That's why I said there's a need for us to understand the immunity he wants to waive. Is it the immunity to be tried? Nobody is trying him now. Or the immunity to appear in court when somebody he has sued. Because maybe some people are looking at Section 308, subsection C, that says no request compelling him to appear shall be issued. But now nobody is compelling him to appear. He is the one that has volunteered to appear. That's why I said there's need for us to go into the argument to know the immunity he wants to waive. You see, some of these constitutional provisions that we talk about, like my senior colleague used to say, Barrister Fred Akokia, he said there's need for us to always look at the intention of the people who drafted the Constitution. Look at Section 180 of the Constitution about impeachment of a governor. The concluding part of that section says no proceedings of this impeachment process shall be entertained in court. And that was why under General Olusegun Obasanjo, 8 members of 22 House of Assembly were impeaching arbitrarily until Peter Obi went to court. And the Supreme Court ruled that, yes, the Constitution says you cannot look into the proceedings of an impeachment, but the impeachment process itself must be anchored on constitutionality. There is a provision for how a governor should be impeached. And you have to observe this thing step by step. When you miss one step, you say, after all, the Constitution has given us that blanket cover that nobody can question it. Supreme Court said we can cover. That's why the impeachment of Dariye, the impeachment of Ladoja, the impeachment of the current governor of Anambra Obi, they were quashed by the Supreme Court. Again, if you look at the Constitution that provides for the president, that says a president, before he can be qualified to contest election, must have a vice president who must be a member of his party. On the basis of this, when Chief Obasanjo in 2007 wanted to stop Chief Atiku from contesting election, Atiku went to AC. And Obasanjo said that we are going to remove him because the Constitution says you must have a vice president and a president that must belong to the same political party. Alhaji Atiku went to court, and Supreme Court ruled. Yes, the Constitution is very clear that you must have a vice president from the same party. But the Constitution does not say you must remain in the same party until you leave office. So some of these things, when they get to court, we'll get broader interpretation of some of these things. We can not just take them on the letters that we see. Like Barrister Akokia will say, what is the intention of people who drafted the Constitution?
Quite enlightening. Let's look at the other aspect of this. Now, many seem not to be buying the move by the vice president. They liken it to the move by El-Rufai. That was a political strategy, enrolling his son in a public school and making a fanfare of it. On the flip side of the coin as well, you in other climes, you hear of people resigning over allegations. You hear them stepping down to enhance investigation into the matter. Wouldn't you say his move to suggest that he would waive his immunity to address this issue is something worthy of comment?
Well, if you say it's a political strategy, I will not say no and I will not say yes, because he has a better understanding of why he decided to come out and tell people that he's ready to waive his immunity.
But it seems like a historical thing in this country. We don't have people, public officials, coming up to say, I am ready to waive my immunity to prove my name.
Tinubu did it. I made mention of Tinubu now. He did it when he was the Lagos State governor. He did it. And this is him now doing the same thing. I don't know of any other person that actually did the same thing. For him to come out and say that, I will not say is an applaud. I will not say it's an applaud. Like you said, it's a political. I'm totally indifferent because I see it as a political strategy as actually. But at the same time, I'm not ruling it out that maybe it's just his own way of telling people that I'm free of this allegation. But what baffles me most is after telling people that he's waiving his immunity, he did not tell us whether he's suing the person that brought the
I think he's ordered his instructed his lawyers to sue them.
To sue them, yes, actually. So I did not say that. So that is good. Then the question now is, why is it the one telling Google to bring it down and not Vanguard? You get, because it's not Google.
Vanguard has apologized, actually.
Vanguard brought it down.
I think I checked.
From the
I couldn't find the story on their website.
There is nowhere on the Google.
I think they've taken
as at yesterday evening, because as at yesterday.
No, as at yesterday evening it was there. But earlier, while I was researching for this program, I couldn't find it.
So, like I said, I can't rule it out if it's a political strategy or not. But what matters most is this. He has said it, and people are saying it as a good thing for someone in that position. In other countries, like you made mention of, some of them will say, okay, what kind of allegation? Just to prove to you, I'm ready to tender my resignation letter. You guys do your investigation for this, what's it called, this allegation brought against him.
I'd like to hear Deepa's thoughts on this.
If El-Rufai and Professor Shibaju are playing politics, are they not politicians? Are we not in the era of politics? Those who made the allegations, is it not politics they are playing? You see, you see the irony of things in Nigeria because of the level of our advancement, and that's why we are Nigerians. Even when you see some comments and you know there are no basis, you cling on to it because it fits into your political mentality. And you see, Nigeria is such a country that when something is dropped, no matter how fallacious it is, no matter the moves you make subsequently, some people will still hold on to that thing. I am aware that I think the vice president must be torn between serious dilemma. Because some people have said, who is making the allegation? I don't really believe him. But some people will say, no, there's a need for us to clear certain things. Because like my friend used to say, that lies told persistently, whether you like it or not, with somebody countering it, it will become the truth. So if the vice president is saying, Vanguard, I give you up to social and time to drop this thing, and those guys said, after investigating it, they found that there's nothing, no basis for that allegation, we are withdrawing that story. Sir, we are very sorry. Yeah. According to information, it's like Vanguard themselves got the story from that Google stuff. That's why they wrote Google too. Why they have told the guys who originated the story that you guys should have a date in court. Those are the areas. Because ordinarily, in average Nigerian will have said, after I'm covered by what do you call it, by immunity. How do you expect a MAGU to have the impact, to have a petition against the vice president and say, by the VP, we want you in our office? It will be difficult. So some government officials at that level will have hid under that cover to say, after all, they say silence is golden. He will not comment. But this guy felt otherwise. I think we should commend him.
Okay. We'll come back. If we have time, I would really want to pick your brains on the approach with which, how the vice president approached the entire matter. But before we go there, let's look at the other side of the divide. And basically, I'm going to ask that, can't we ignore the messenger, Timmy Frank, and his colleague in this instance, and look at the allegation itself? It maybe could be a misunderstanding or misrepresentation of facts, but isn't it worthy of investigation? 90 billion naira is a lot of money in this country.
Well, like I mentioned, I don't see anything wrong in anybody carrying out investigation on any allegation. Allegation is allegation. It's not a crime committed until it's proven it's not a crime. So after the investigation and they discover that it's true, then maybe the law will take its proper course, or is untrue, then maybe the law will also take its own proper course on the people that made that allegation. There is nothing wrong in any government, any body, any institution to carry out investigation on any allegation. Allegation could be true and it could be untrue.
There is I'm sorry, because we have very limited time. There are multiple reports that there seem to be, some people are linking it to this, that Osibanjo's seeming travels is because he has a falling out with the presidency. Is there any validity to this speculation?
Not at all. Not at all. This thing didn't start today. Don't forget that in 2015, when they came into office, somebody came out to tell Nigerians publicly that Oshibaji had signed a letter of resignation before he became deputy vice president, that he will only be there for 6 months. And that after 6 months, he will step down, then somebody else will be brought in, and ask somebody a question. When he was signing that letter of resignation, on what letterhead? Had he become the VP to say, okay, because as a vice president, you can't retire, you can't resign on plain letter paper. There must have been a letterhead. You see, at times, some of these things, when they drop, some of us ask questions. Now, back to the original issue, that why can't the person be ignored? That was why the vice president could have kept quiet. Everybody could have kept quiet. Is it not Nigeria? After 3 days, other thing will happen. Nigeria will forget about the story. But this man said, no. I want to waive my immunity. This thing has to be investigated. Because there needs for us to go into the body of that allegation. That under the allegation, that the president even confronted the vice president as if he was there. So those are the things they want them to come out and quote. Don't forget that immediately this allegation dropped, FIRS came out and said 90 billion. Even our own allocation for a year is not up to 90 billion. Because we collect money for government. They don't pay cash to us. They pay into TSA. It's only government that says, okay, you guys, this is what you need to pay your staff, to train your staff for your other things. This is what you need. That we don't even collect up to 90 billion. So where will we get 90 billion to give? So that's why the VP said, whatever it takes, investigate this matter. And he wrote, man, you said we collected 90 billion. You were there when the president confronted me. I said the 11 billion I gave to Lagos. Lagos said no, they received 5 billion. Lagos said they received 5 billion. Okay, you guys, let us open it up. So it's very interesting. Before now, the vice president will have kept quiet. Is it not Nigeria? After 3-4 days, another thing will happen. Nigeria will forget. The same other people that have been accused in the future, in the past, they did raise an issue, and Nigerians will forget. That is our nature.
So why is he choosing to respond now? If you are saying that the country doesn't have up to 90 billion.
Hey, that's why the guy said, okay, let him come and tell us how we raised 90 billion. When they gave me, was it a cash? Was it transfer? Was it check? It's going to be very
before
interesting.
we go, let me ask, wouldn't it have been a bit more impactful if the vice president has, I mean, what we read in the news is he's taking them to court, he's suing them, other than him going to social media to announce his move. It's like telling the opponent your strategy even before you do it.
What strategy?
Yeah, he said he's going to go to court, but wouldn't he have gone to court before going?
No, in legal balance. That's why people are saying, no, he should not take the apology of Vanguard. That is what the law says.
Yes.
You tried them. It's either you retract the story or I take you to court. And they have retracted the story. Going to court against Vanguard is unnecessary. The issue is those persons. You also put them on notice. I am taking you to court over this matter. So this one is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Don't forget. He's also a professor of law.
I wish we had more time. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Your thoughts are always enlightening. Thank you very much for sharing them. Right. The closure of the borders has elicited varying responses from the public. So for our Plus package today, we bring you some of these responses expressed on social media. And after that, I'll give you my take. To stay with us. Let us not, in trying to solve a problem, create more. The closure of Nigeria's land borders causes more problems for the already struggling Nigerian. There is no buffer for the hike in prices of goods and food items. It will not, in my layman opinion, address the issue of smuggling in the long term. Addressing the issue requires a more comprehensive evaluation of the problems at all our borders to proffer the right solutions and the will to implement same. I submit that Nigeria's federal government should reconsider and open the country's borders to allow free-flowing commercial activities while long-term solutions. Be security conscious and be safe.
To an extent, the reading culture of Nigerians is not too good. A lot of people believe that every other thing is much more important than buying a book to read. Apart from the fact that people just want to read books for the purpose of passing their exams or going through school, hardly do people believe that reading outside that purpose still will help them to an extent.
It's been full of ups and downs. Nigerians don't read. I dare to disagree because, we're 16K followers strong on our Instagram account, on other platforms as well. We also have a huge following. So if I told people are not interested in books in Nigeria, we wouldn't have people follow in the first place. And it's so exciting to find out that there are so many people outside of Lagos in deep core parts of Nigeria that are buying and shopping for us, and they are just so excited that, oh, this book is locally available and it's sort of like within reach for them. So it's been exciting. It could be better, but again, we do it for the culture, you do it for the passion, and hopefully more stakeholders get interested in it, and it gets better. I got into selling books because I was very passionate about it, and then I was hungry to find other people like me. I wanted to connect with them, and the kind of books that fascinated me were not, I could hardly find people around who were excited about them as well. So at the time, when I interact with people within my age range, they're either talking about some foreign authors that write books outside of the context that I'm familiar with. So I wanted to meet with other young people, other people of like minds who were excited about the kind of books that I liked. And that was basically how it all began. And then beyond that also, I definitely used to go to some website online to find out what books are first to reckon with internationally. And then most of those books are not available locally, so I had to either shop from some big names out there. And then I thought, if these books are available and people are actually talking about them, reviewing them, perhaps there might be young people or people in Nigeria as well that would really want to read about them. So why not bring in a few copies, see if I can circulate within my circle, publicize, use social media, and see how far it goes. And so that was how it all started.
It's actually more like one of the out of inspiration, and then the drive to bring books closer to people, because at some points that I loved reading, I found it hard getting the kind of books I really always wanted to read. So it was like, you could get this for other people, and then it's been there for me. So I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, and I'm the fact that I can have access to books too as a bookseller is fantastic for me. Yeah, it's been profitable. It's how you do the business that makes it profitable for you. So it's been profitable. It may not be the best of the businesses in the country or in the world, especially maybe in this part of the world, knowing fully well the attitude to reading and education generally, and then even government's attitude to education, but still, there are still people who know that without education, they wouldn't be where they are. And then even if they are not educated, they get the best of educated people to work for them. So that means education, which comes through reading of books. is a key and vital role in this life.
It has enhanced reading, but what I realize is that even for those who normally would not like to buy a Bible before, because of the ability to read their Bibles from their phones, a lot of people are beginning to dump reading Bibles on their phones with buying regular Bibles because they've seen the importance of having to carry a Bible or read a hard copy Bible. When people read from their phones, most times they can't easily go back or even highlight certain things. But with the hard copy Bible, they are able to do some highlighting, go back, make references and all that. So technology, to an extent, it has its own advantage and its own disadvantage to our business. Advantages are the fact that people could, read at any time they want to, in the dark, wherever. But disadvantage is the fact that it's handy, when you have your books on your media, electronic media. But for those who still cherish the hard copy books, they still come back, to pick up the hard copy books from us. A lot of Nigerians are writing more because virtually on a daily basis we get new books from Nigerian writers, asking that Latona should carry their books. It's a bit challenging, but at the same time we try to encourage them, to review their books and then accept it for display on our shelves.
We still battle with issues of piracy. There are times where royalties are not paid the way they are supposed to. Publishing houses don't put enough effort to promoting books the way they are supposed to. So that way books and people are not even aware that some Nigerian authors are writing really, really good books. I think sometimes more books written by Nigerian authors are sort of like accepted in the Western world better than they are locally. And also, in terms of marketing, publicity, locally, more effort still needs to be put in place to help us combat issues of piracy and then ensure that people are more able to access so many of these books as well locally.
For book lovers, I say keep reading because you know already what you are gaining from reading. And then for governments, give more allocation to education. Allocation to education is very important, and you can't have a government that just places less emphasis on education, and every year you expect your people to be better, and then there are fightings. Any small thing, any little thing, there's fights, and it's all because of the level of exposure and education of the people, and it's playing a role in every facet of the economy, every facet of the society, because people are not well enlightened about their rights, about the opportunities that they can actually get, and many of those things come in through parts of education, and reading is part of it.
Hi guys, my name is Kemen Fitness. I'm a fitness entrepreneur and wellness coach. Drink a lot of water, stretch before you work out. Try to work out at least 30 minutes. Eat healthy, that's eat clean, and have a lot of sleep. Yeah, try to sleep when you can. On the keyboard. I don't think I know. On the keyboard. That's it, on the keyboard. If it's not Z, I don't know. Last sleep which I hung out with. When was the last time I hung outside? But I had the most fun hanging out with Timaya. He's a comedian. North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, Antarctica. Okay, so wait. Some chairs have arms and legs but no head. Maybe. Yeah. I admire a lot of female celebrities. A lot of them. I mean, yeah, of course. The most. Don't tell anybody. Tiwa Savage. Hi guys, my name is Kemen. I'm a fitness entrepreneur and a wellness coach. These guys, they made me thirsty, but I survived. At least I answered most of the questions, so I tried. Yeah!
Hello and many thanks for joining us. The news on the hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are some of the stories making the headlines. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday ordered the permanent forfeiture of some assets returned by suspects linked to the suspended head of service of the Federation, Winifred Oyoita. Details of the case were not read out in the open court when Justice Folashade Ogunbanjo-Giwa made the order of final forfeiture of the monetary assets to the federal government. She was placed on an indefinite suspension over corruption allegations launched against her by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Moving the application on Thursday, the EFCC lawyer MS Abubakar said the funds were voluntarily returned to the commission as proceeds of crime. He reminded the court that it had on June 28, 2019, granted an ex parte application ordering the interim forfeiture of the assets, saying as of Thursday, no one had filed an application to challenge the interim order, despite that it had been served on the suspect. He therefore urged the court to grant a permanent order of forfeiture of the assets. They informed the judge that the money had been paid into an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria. As soon as it was returned by the suspect, the judge went on to make the order of final forfeiture of the assets. Now, the Department of State Services, DSS, has twice on Friday blocked a bailiff of the Federal High Court in Abuja from effecting a fresh service of the court order for the release of the convener of Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore. It was learned that the bailiff first arrived at DSS headquarters in Abuja, where Sowore had been held since August 3, 2019, around 9:30 a.m. on Friday, but was asked to return by noon when the Director General of DSS, Yusuf Bichi, would be around. But it was learned that the bailiff returned to the DSS headquarters at 12:14 p.m. on Friday, but was denied access. One of Showore's lawyers, Sam Ogala, who was at the main gate of the DSS office during the bailiff's attempt to serve the security agency, confirmed the development. Showore's legal team, led by Femi Falana, had on Thursday expressed shock over DSS' claim that it had not been served with the order issued by Justice Taiwo Taiwo of the Federal High Court in Abuja granting bail. And Thursday, after DSS spokesperson denied that the agency had been served with a court order, Femi Falana said Ayuba Adam of the legal department of the DSS received the court order on behalf of the agency in September 24. The DSS denial came after news broke that Showore's legal team had commenced a contempt suit against the DSS boss for failing to comply with the court order for Showore's release. Now, the federal government is set to reconstitute a new committee to begin fresh negotiations for the full implementation of the new national minimum wage of 30,000 naira. Minister of Labour and Employment Senator Chris Ngige disclosed this on Thursday in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Senator Ngige made the revelation when the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, paid him a courtesy visit at his office in the nation's capital. He, however, warned that a delay in agreement for the full implementation of the new minimum wage may put the federal and state governments in a difficult position to pay because of the backlog that would arise. The minister explained that it was important for workers earning above 30,000 naira on grade levels 7 to 17 to be patient. He gave assurance that the consequential adjustment of the minimum wage implementation would be sorted out. Meanwhile, civil servants in Kaduna State on Friday commended Governor Nasir El-Rufai for paying the 30,000 naira minimum wage as promised. The governor had, in a statement in August signed by his special advisor on media and communications, Muyiwa Adeke, promised to pay the 30,000 naira national minimum wage in September. Similarly, the Trade Union Congress Kaduna State Council also joined workers in commending the governor for implementing the minimum wage as promised. The union, in a letter of appreciation to the governor signed by the council's chairman, Shehu Mohammed, described the development as commendable, considering that the federal government was yet to fully implement the national minimum wage. The union promised to support the El-Rufai-led administration to move Kaduna to greater heights by assuring that the productivity of the workforce is improved. Away from that, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, on Friday underscored the need to have a budget reform that will include a law on timeline in budget passing. He made the call at business meeting of the Institute of Directors annual conference in Abuja. He spoke on reforming the budget cycle, a first step in our journey to the next level. He said timelines and deadlines would give leaders focus and make for more definite on deliverables. According to him, reports indicate that countries like the US, Canada, Australia, Brazil, France and India have more definite budget cycles through legislation. The president of the Senate said it is important to improve on database showing the socio-economic conditions of the country. He added that a database will be more helpful for the appreciation of financial projections despite current efforts by the National Bureau of Statistics and some multilateral agencies in showing sectoral performances of the economy. He called for the amendment of the Public Procurement Act 2007, noting that the act has not provided the intended efficacy it should produce. To party matters now, the All Progressive Congress APC and its governors have dismissed recent allegations of a Cold War within the presidency as mere rumor and another scheme of opposition mischief makers. There have been media reports and allegations in the political space of a festering sore relationship between President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in the last few days, indicating that handlers of the president had demanded the resignation of the vice president. However, during separate media engagement in Abuja on Thursday, the Progressive Governors Forum and the National Secretariat of the ruling APC dismissed the insinuation, stating that more recent events had proven such as invalid claims. Speaking during the inauguration of the Progressive Governors Forum PGF Steering Committee on Media and Communication, Lagos Governor, who is also the chairman of the committee, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said the alleged face-off in the presidency was just gossip. The governor, who was represented by his deputy, Obafemi Hamzat, explained that the Buhari-Osinbajo administration has carried on with its normal duties in the last few days, despite the alleged bad blood. Efforts to improve on crime prevention take center stage in Abuja as the Nigerian Police Force receives training on the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. The training, organized by Clean Foundation in Abuja, is expected to be a train-the-trainers training aimed at improving adherence to human rights of suspects, improving conditions of arrest and detention of alleged criminals, speedy dispensation of justice for Nigerians, and the improvement of Nigeria